So, fun fact, the Zoom H5 sound recorder only takes 16 gigabyte cards. Like, that's the biggest size it can take. Would you people at home like to take a guess at what kind of card I put in the sound recorder tonight? I'll give it a moment so people can think about it.
Do 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 do. Is it a 64 gig?
It was a 64 gig. Yeah. Like the kind that I put in my cameras. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and what happens when you put a 64 gig in?
Even though it'll say it's recording and it'll give a running counter when it's recording, apparently, it won't record at all.
It just goes into thin air.
Yeah.
So you meet with us on the second recording of the second week
Take
Of-
2.
of December 2019.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Justin, how was your weekend?
Well, my weekend will make it a little more interesting than we did last one, which was fine. But I was visiting a friend in Tennessee.
Here, the second attempt, we can... You'll probably just be shorter and more concise so you can get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. So long story short, we have a good friend of the program, both on the podcast and video variety, named AJ. He has helped us out on multiple different videos, on the Stinger video, as well as... which other ones has he helped out on?
He helped out on our... he did some writing with us on the very first video we did of Welcome to the Channel.
Yep.
But yeah, he's helped in the assistant camera department and also camera card operator and writing as well.
But just sadly not recently, because he just in May of last year, so 2018, moved out to Tennessee. He mainly did that because Tennessee has a thing where if you move out there and you become a citizen for a year, you get free tuition. So he's going out there for school, and I hadn't seen him, and we had seen him once because he came to visit once, but
that was back in like February.
yeah, and he was only there for a day, so it wasn't really too much we could do. So I ended up flying out on Thursday at midnight. I had a through-the-night flight to go out and get him, and luckily I was, and as we've known, I actually made a joke at the last podcast round about a new term I have called business broke.
Right.
So the only reason this happened is because I have enough miles, because I've blown enough money on credit cards to have enough miles with American Airlines to pay for flights. So I flew out, left at midnight. I had to connect in Charlotte, and then made it to Tennessee by 8 a.m. And we did a bunch of different things. I would advocate going and visiting Tennessee. Honestly, like, it's a gorgeous place. Memphis is, but if you go to Knoxville's about the size of Salt Lake, so it's this cool little city. It's not super crowded, and it's got a lot of little history things. The World's Fair was there, so it's got a big old park for the World's Fair, as well as the, it's called the Sun Dome, I believe. It's in the center, which was this big old kind of tower that just has gold glass all around the top that you can go up in an elevator and look over the whole city. And then if you go to Nashville, obviously, music capital of the United States, quote unquote, more or less country capital of the United States, but
Right.
tons of really good local artists.
Country is religion there.
It is, yeah, and tons of really good local artists. There's also a very good car museum there. I think I've mentioned it on here one time before, called the I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about and have forgotten what I was going to say.
This is not the first time this has happened.
Oh, really? It won't be the last. The Lane Motor Museum, that's what it is.
Gotcha.
So, and it's what's called the living museum. So all the cars are completely functional, and they're every year to support the museum, they have an auction, and when you win that auction, you get to take the car for a day, and within reason, of course, and drive it around or do what you please with it, etc. And that's how they fund the museum and stuff, and keep it going, and buy new exhibits and stuff. And it was basically it was actually just a guy's personal car collection that he turned into this. which is
Yeah.
really cool.
That's neat.
Anyway, so I would definitely advocate visiting. It's just beautiful everywhere. And so, like on Thursday when we first landed, we drove over to his place. We had a little food topic on the last one, which I'll kind of make more brief here, but anybody knows the South is stereotypical for food. And over there, even like the fast food's pretty good. And there's several
Right.
things we don't get here. There's in Utah, we don't have Waffle House, even though that there's one in Phoenix and one in Denver. We don't get that.
Right.
And Waffle House it's dirt cheap, and it's kind of this like, I would almost say borderline shitty place. You would almost question looking at it whether it's better or worse than a Denny's.
The best restaurants are hole in the walls where it looks like a complete dive.
Yeah, but it's always busy. That's the funny thing with Waffle House. It's always busy. It's open 24/7.
Right.
And they have the best, they have cocaine waffles, I swear.
And not on the same magnitude, probably, but my favorite pho restaurant in all of Utah is Lakai Noodle House.
Yep.
Which is in this shitty little dumpy building that shares a parking lot with an AutoZone.
Yep.
And like you walk in the door and it's actually pretty nice on the inside.
Yeah.
And it's just always packed and their food is amazing.
Yep. I know. Those places are great. And then the other thing we don't get here, which I had out there, was Cookout, which is interesting because most of their locations don't have a dine-in area. It's all just drive-through. Mm-hmm. And for $5, you get a main course, which is either like a double burger, a burrito, a sandwich of some kind, plus 2 sides, which can be like grits, coleslaw, hush puppies, hash browns, etc., onion rings, and then you get a large drink for $5. I don't know. It's just great. I love it.
Yeah, why is that not a thing out here?
Because somebody hasn't decided to bring it past the Mississippi yet. I don't know who that is, but somebody.
Maybe that's going to be your big, like,
I've thought about it.
Your money thing.
I've thought about it.
Like,
Because when I lived in North Carolina, one thing that wasn't out here at the time was Zaxby's. And now Zaxby's is out here.
yeah.
So somebody did it. So maybe I need to do it with that. Anyways, so we had a couple meals, and then I ended up seeing Ford versus Ferrari that day.
Yeah. So, what'd you think?
So Ford versus Ferrari was great. I thought, like, the actors were great. The cinematography was great. It stayed relatively close to, like, the actual storyline. A few notable exceptions were, like, the actual buyout of Ferrari was initially proposed by Ferrari, and, you know, in the movie it was proposed by Ford.
Right.
And the timeline of that was several years versus in the movie it was.
But they made it
pretty
play
quick.
really well in the film, though.
They did.
It was pretty seamless. Mm-hmm. I'm not a Ford historian myself, nor am I like a Shelby historian or anything like that.
Yeah.
Chance Hales is a historian on that shit.
Yeah.
He could go punch for punch with Mike, who we met at the Shelby Museum. He could just, you know, they could have discussions for
Go to town.
Oh, for sure, yeah. But what was really cool, though, what we did learn from Mike,
Yep.
and that actually happened, we were looking at the Ken Miles car
Yep.
at the Shelby Museum, and he said, well, you see that dent in the door? That's from the first lap of Ford's attempt at winning Le Mans. No, second attempt? Their first win.
It was the first.
It
Yeah.
was the first that they won.
The first win, yep.
The first win, because they attempted in 65 and they lost. Mm-hmm. But in 66, Ken Miles' first lap was actually, the door was open because it was somehow not closing for whatever reason.
Somehow it initially hit his helmet and then wouldn't latch after that.
Yeah, and they had to like slam it shut. Like
Yep.
he pulled into the pits and they had to like take a hammer or something and
Slam it shut.
Yeah.
But either way, you can see the dent on the top of the door from that.
Right. And then the gurney bubble became a thing.
Yep, exactly. And then other than that, I mean, the movie was pretty accurate to reality. Played great on like the whole dynamic between all the characters that were involved.
Right.
And, was fantastic. Like, we even had somebody that wasn't a car buff with us. That was AJ's girlfriend's brother, and he loved it too. And it was equally great. So I mean, I would definitely recommend seeing it, even if you're not a car buff. It's just a great movie in general.
Oh, for sure.
And yeah, and so then on Friday we drove down to a little town called Gatlinburg, which is about an hour southeast of Knoxville, which is more of a tourist area, but we actually got down there and found out that they were having a parade, and so it was just insane.
Cool.
So we left because we did not want to be stuck there.
No, I mean, it sounds like it could be fun until it isn't fun, and then it really isn't fun.
Yep, exactly. Which is my Sunday, which I'll get to in just a second.
Oh, boy.
And then but actually, funny enough, before that, we had a small MacGyver moment where we ended up having to MacGyver together a hose for the car to get down there. On the way home on Thursday night, AJ's car, it is a Saab 9.3, it blew a radiator hose. And good news is the part was cheap, but it wasn't available, was the bad news.
Yeah. It was cheap if you could find one, but guess what? They don't exist.
Yep. So we ended up using, we bought.
You used lube is what happened. You used lube.
Yes,
Like sex lube.
Yes, we bought a 90-degree bend from just a generic hose they had off the shelf to get back into this port we needed to, and then we had to get this weird reducer that was originally designed for a Chevy truck.
Right.
And
was this so? Wait. So what year is the car?
it's a 2002.
Oh, so it was under the GM ownership,
Yeah, but
but there wasn't any actual similarities.
No.
You
Oh,
don't-
no.
You don't think they thought when they were under GM like, let's just share this part?
no,
Okay.
they were kicking and screaming until the end.
Sure.
So no, anything that they could change, they did.
Right. It's understandable.
Yeah, and so we basically ended up using this 90 as well as this random adapter to adapt from a 1/2 inch to roughly 3/8 inch hose size. And the 1/2 inch wasn't quite, it was more like 9/16.
Yeah.
And we didn't have any other type of lubricative stuff, and so we ended up using KY jelly to stretch this hose over this adapter
Thank you, Amanda.
and then clamped it. And it worked perfectly, and we did the whole trip and never had troubles, and it didn't leak. Shout out to KY.
Yeah, no kidding.
But
Real MVPs right there.
I know. And then on Saturday we just kind of hung around because I was sick and Amanda was sick, but it was fine. We watched a couple of movies, just kind of hung around and chilled, and that was fine with me. It was still a relaxing time. And then Sunday getting there was pretty easy. Sunday getting back, oh God, what was originally supposed to happen is Charlotte to Knoxville, which is the only place you can connect nearest to Salt Lake from, doesn't run on Sundays. So I had to fly to DC first, then Charlotte, then home.
Well, that's because it's the Lord's Day.
Yes. As Chick-fil-A well noted in the DC airport, because it wasn't even fucking open, as the airport was busy as shit. Anyways. But that was what was supposed to happen, and how it was supposed to go was 6 a.m. I was supposed to leave at Knoxville, arrive at DC at 8. I was supposed to leave at 4 p.m., arrive in Charlotte at about 7, and then supposed to leave at 8:30 and arrive in Salt Lake at about 10:30-ish. That's not what happened.
No.
Okay, first leg went fine. Arrived in DC. It was delayed like 30 minutes, so I ended up departing at around 5. Got to Charlotte at about 8. I'm like, oh, okay, good. I still have time. Ran to the other gate, and then I proceeded to notice that there wasn't a plane there, as the departure time was 5 minutes away. Then they get on the loud phone and say, oh, sorry, plane's in maintenance. Oh, it's going to be delayed and everything. And then
Thanks for the fucking update.
proceed to watch the departure time go from 8:30 to 9 to 9:30 to 10
Jesus.
to 10:30.
Fuck.
And finally at 10:15 it shows up and we get on the plane and we actually depart at 10:45.
Fuck.
So then I don't get back until 1:45 and actually end up missing my driving route this morning. Because I get home to my house, throw everything down, think I can take an hour power nap like I've done before and just go back into it and pass the fuck out till 6:30.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun 21-hour travel day. That sucked, but whatever. That was supposed to be like a 17-hour travel day.
God damn.
Yeah. Either way, I made it back and it was what it was, but yeah. Anyways, I would still recommend going and visiting Tennessee, especially Knoxville. It was awesome. Beautiful, green. Almost every road's twisty. Even the
I was
highways
going to say,
and
word on the
freeways.
street is that they have pretty good driving roads over there.
Yes, they have. For instance, they actually have one of the very famous ones, which is Tail of the Dragon.
Yes.
And they also have a section of the Blue Ridge Parkway, which is in the same area of the Smokies, which is that whole mountain range right there, which,
Yeah.
oh, it's gorgeous. That's the same place Gatlinburg is at. They're all in that big old stretch of the Appalachians.
See, if they had a Turo market out there, oh boy.
They had a few. We looked up a few. Well, like,
I've looked into it, and it's not really anything to write home about.
it's not anything to write home about.
I would say it's probably less than Utah.
It is. Oh, it's for sure less than Utah. Like, for instance, before we fixed the car, we were looking at maybe just renting a cheaper,
Yeah.
Until we figured out a way to fix it with KY jelly. But
He
yeah,
should just get a sticker, like a KY jelly sticker.
fixed with KY jelly.
That should be a thing. AJ, get on it, son. I need pictures.
Oh, no. Anyways, but yeah, there's really not much of a market out there. The only market which you've already seen is that they have a bunch of slingshots, which are actually in Gatlinburg to rent. All those ones
I'm
that you
sure
saw.
they are for $300 a day.
Yeah, but yeah, they're insane.
Pass. Hard pass.
But yeah, anybody looking for some travel plans, I would definitely recommend it because it's also pretty cheap too. So
Yeah.
no problems. But
Sick.
yeah, no, that was great. And then, it's fun shit. And
The food.
I'm tired though.
The food.
The food was damn good.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of like. I was glad to go back and get some of that because I hadn't been down there in a minute, and there's just some things they do differently. Like, for instance, coleslaw down there is very different than up here. Same with barbecue sauce. Coleslaw and barbecue sauce down there are more vinegar based, whereas up here they're more sugary type based.
Right.
Either with ranch or with sugar as a base for the barbecue sauce. It just adds this different dynamic of flavor to it rather than just
A different zing.
rather than just sugar. Because a lot more stuff is just straight sugar up here,
True.
or high fructose corn syrup, etc.
Well, yeah.
But man, yeah, the food was damn good. We went to this one place, it was down the road from his house, that just had some damn good southern food, and it was this really cool. I don't remember what it was called, and I don't remember where his house is, so I'm not even going to bother trying to look it up. But it's just a really cool place with all these the ceiling fan, quote unquote, in the main area was a bunch of paddles, like oars or whatnot,
Okay.
that were mounted on this center spike that turned like this. So they went like this, and that was like,
That's a fan?
yeah, it just kind of,
So it's like a paddle boat. Like a paddle wheel.
but it was just spinning very slow. But since there was enough of them, it gave just enough of just this nice little
That's interesting.
dude, it was cool.
So you said that was a ceiling fan?
More or less, yeah.
It was on the ceiling?
Yeah. It was this big old fixture in the ceiling that was about 20 feet wide
Interesting.
that just sat there and slowly turned overhead. And
So I guess for those listening at home, if you imagine like a paddle boat, kind of like the ferries that they have down in New Orleans.
like a steamer, or I
guess so.
I can't remember what they're called, like the river boats
Yeah, imagine that kind of paddle and that wheel.
mounted on the ceiling,
Yeah, that's interesting.
just kind of turning in a clockwise direction, just kind of slowly providing some airflow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Huh.
I never would have thought of it until I saw it,
Yeah.
but yeah, kind of weird. But
Interesting. Very
But-
interesting.
But moving on, one of the things we wanted to talk about as well on this podcast was music.
Yeah, so we talked about music once before with Jordan. Jordan, we miss you. We need to have you back. The
We've
wife
pressed
need-
F in the chat too much.
Yeah, the wife needs to let you out of the house.
I know. Yes.
No, shout out to Cassie.
I know it's not
Desjardins.
her. It's work. and
It's not
stuff.
her. It's definitely work. But we miss your face. And next time you come over, I don't know if you're listening to this, but next time you come over, whiskey's on me.
Oh.
Yeah.
What a way to
give
drag
you some-
somebody in.
Yeah. Got to give him some fucking. Give him a reason, right?
Hey, if drinking's your reason.
Yeah,
There you go.
exactly. But anyways, so yes, music. With it being December, with it being the end of the year, we decided to discuss our Spotify 2019 Wrapped.
Because both of us are fairly heavy users of Spotify.
Right. So I've been paying
patron of Spotify since 2013,
And I've been since
and
2015.
I haven't stopped because why would I?
Yeah, same.
Yeah, if you're on the freebie Spotify, that's neat that you're not spending the $10 a month, but it is absolutely, most definitely worth it.
It's 100% worth it.
Just be a grown up.
Just do it. $10 a month. It's not bad.
But anyways, so what was your 2019 like, Justin?
So, is in the Cliff Notes version, my number one artist was Periphery, which actually I don't even think I really talked about him last time, but they're a subgenre of progressive metal called gent. And
Oh, I know Gent. Gent with a DJ.
Yep, DJ.
Yeah.
Yep. Which is effectively down-tuned guitars between a half step and a full step.
Well, and a lot of them use 7 strings.
Yep,
as
seven,
well.
7 or 8 sometimes, and 5 or 6 string basses, just because you need those low tones is what we're talking
Those
about
frequencies.
here. Yes,
Those frequencies.
exactly.
Uh,
So, but yeah, they're a really cool group. They're also a group that kind of records interesting. They do it kind of remotely, and kind of do a 4-stage process. They'll write and create all the concept and the songs. Then they'll remotely record all the backing tracks or kind of the bass ground of the song. So they have stuff to record too. Then they'll meet in person for about 2 weeks, knock them all out, record all of them. And then the fourth thing they usually do is they'll add little extra sounds, the flares, the choirs, whatever they do. And they do a lot of orchestral stuff in their backgrounds of their songs, the beginnings, etc. And come to find out, I found out in one of the documentaries, all that stuff is actually recorded here in Utah,
oh, neat.
oddly enough. And so about 10% of the album was here in Utah, because there's about 10% of it that's strings or harp or horns or other little add-ins
Right.
all throughout there. And yeah, it was just weird when I was watching their little documentary, and all of a sudden I see this beautiful mountainscape and looks like Mount Temp, and then come to find out it was Mount Temp. So yeah.
Nice.
And then on top of that, I had the next 4 were Leprous, which I mentioned before, Tesseract, which is a cool group they're a little more alternative-ish, from England, Haken, which is just very kind of new.
Hakken.
Haken.
Oh, okay.
Yep, and they're not really heavy. They're more what I would describe as a new version of 70s prog rock. Really
Right.
cool, kind of big ballad, stuff like that. And then Apache, which is a symphonic take on, I should say a club take on symphonic. He'll do covers of Bach or things like that.
Very cool.
And turn them into these kind of electronic sounds, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And I listened to 34,000 minutes of music, which if you drag that out, it's about 30 days,
And I listened to about 53,000.
which turns out to about 36 days.
Shit.
Jeez. So just
a
think about
lot.
that, a month and a week of last year, a solid month and a week, Spotify was going. Mm-hmm. Which isn't, before we move on from this, which isn't the craziest Gavin has had.
No, if you take that figure in terms of minutes, and if you add a 1 at the beginning of that, that's what my 2015 was.
Because he had 154,000 minutes.
Yes, but if I'm being honest, a lot of that was also me falling asleep to podcasts, or not podcasts, stand-up specials.
Yeah.
So a lot of Eugene Merman, Todd Barry. Who else was I listening to at that time? Oh shit! It wouldn't be necessarily loud, ha ha,
Yeah.
crazy, audience responses or audience engagements or whatever, but just really funny observations. Yeah, Eugene Merman is actually really fucking smart and really funny.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, he plays Gene on Bob's Burgers.
Gotcha.
And yeah, he has a lot of really funny insights on Russians and shit. It's fucking great. That's what we should have listened to on our LA trip. Actually, that would have been really funny.
Yeah, that would have been pretty good.
But anyways,
But yeah, and so that equates to literally almost exactly a third of your year.
which makes sense because if you talk about how much you sleep,
Yep.
it's a third of your life. So actually,
Kind of makes sense.
yeah.
And then one of the other things they did was they did your artist of the decade.
Right, so who's your artist of the decade?
311 actually, because and I still listen to them occasionally, although they haven't been in my top 5 the past couple years.
Sure.
But 15 through 17, I bashed through like everything they had ever recorded multiple times, and they're still one of my. I love them as a group. I think they just sound cool. They do. I mean, they don't do anything different. They do literally.
I mean, they were very much in early 2000s.
Very.
It was they were one of those newer genres that came out between like 98 and like 2000.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, along with Korn, and Limp Bizkit.
Yeah.
Like those bands were like very early 2000s, late.
Yeah,
90s.
very stereotypical in their time period.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and I think that's probably why they kind of get some flack.
Yeah.
Not necessarily flack, but they're just more of a polarizing band between audience and people that don't listen to them.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that don't like them very much. I've met several people that just
And I'm somehow in the middle where I'm just like, yeah, they're okay.
they're there.
Yeah.
No, they have their good hits, that's for sure.
And they did a well-known cover of The Cure's Love Song.
Which is actually I love it. I love
It's
their
fantastic.
version.
I prefer, and this is a hot take now, okay,
Yeah.
unpopular music opinion.
I prefer theirs too.
I prefer Anne Boleyn's cover.
Really?
Because it's just kind of more of my style.
More
of just-
rocky.
Yeah.
No, I get it. Their version, I
Less 80s sad boy and
Yeah.
less, sublime 311.
yeah, I get it. But then the kind of the final little thing that they did, which I thought was really cool, was they gave you the amount of new artists that you discovered as well.
Right. So I discovered 249 artists.
And I discovered 458.
Fuck.
Which the reason why is I go through a lot of my Spotify weeklies and all my extracurricular playlists that they
See,
provide.
I don't do that. I don't do like the discover this or whatever.
That's what I do, and that's what's led me to a lot of my stuff, because I haven't had a lot of my artist has been, my top 5 has been different almost every single year because I go through all these and change it.
Most of the time when I've discovered new music, it's been either a friend recommendation. When I got into Forza Horizon, actually, they have a radio, or they have like 4 different radio stations, and there's this one that I discovered on there. I think it was like more of like pop dance stuff, and there was something I discovered. I was like, oh, that's really fucking good, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then with my music, and I'm not saying that you don't go deep into yours, because I know that you do.
Yeah, you're good.
But I also kind of have like my go-tos.
Yeah.
And then I kind of stick with it for a while, and then I'll kind of fall out of love for that, and I'll find something else, and then I'll go really hard into that, and then I will go back to that original. And what I do oftentimes actually is I'll have a pretty solid run of songs on my saved.
Yeah.
And there'll be like 10, 15 songs.
Okay.
And I really love to listen to them in that order.
Awesome.
We're still recording, right?
Yes, we are.
I sure
That
hope
is
so.
Why I was making sure.
Hold on.
Yes. We are still going.
Because this card over here is the 64.
Yep. Good. Thank you for double checking.
I would have just jumped out of my building if that happened. I would have gone to the top floor and just jumped out. But yeah, I'll listen to like the same songs in kind of the same order. And when I'm like playing guitar at home and stuff, I'll plug in and I'll just put on shuffle and just go skip. But if I'm driving the work van, or if I'm in my car, or if I have someone else's car for a couple days, or whatever, if I'm playing Forza or something, I'll have like my kind of like my set, and I'll go from the top of a certain set to the end, and when it starts to pass it, I'll go back to the top again and go through it.
Let's see.
Oh Jesus!
What has happened?
Something I'll tell you about later.
Gotcha. I know what this is. Anyways. Funny shit. Anyways, but yeah, I mean it's interesting. I wish more services would do a wrapped type thing like this and kind of give you
It would
lowdown.
be interesting for sure if Pandora did something like this,
or even like Netflix. Like
yeah.
I don't know if I would want to know that one.
For some people, it'd just be like, it would just be one thing, and it'd be The Office.
The Office 24/7.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I wish that more companies would do like a funny little wrap thing like this because it doesn't take them that long, and it's a cool little gift to their patrons and stuff. And
It is. It is. It's nice to feel recognized with Spotify, I guess.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
I don't know, I hold it near and dear to my heart.
I know.
Sure. I mean, part of my. I mean, I've gone through some of the best times of my life and some of the worst times of my life through Spotify,
Yep.
and it kind of gets in under your skin a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's nice to get that kind of recognition back and to kind of reflect. And over the past week or so, that the whatever Unwrapped that Spotify has done this year, I've gone back and I've like rekindled some like songs. I'm just like, oh yeah, that was really good.
I remember that.
I remember that,
Yeah.
and I get a second appreciation for it.
Get a second
cool.
wind.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah. No, I totally get it. But oh goodness, man. So, kind of another thing we wanted to go into. We had a Track Daily Crush suggestion.
Yeah, shout out to Derek Sanders for
Constantly providing us with Track Daily Crush options.
yeah. He and I are. So we became friends. I mean, mostly through mutual friends, being Randall, owner of the Fiesta ST, and Derek had the Performance Blue Fiesta ST. His was like stage 3 big turbo, like kind of crazy, and but he sold it when he moved here to kind of free up some funds for living and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we disagree on most other things. And so he keeps on sending me Track Daily Crushes. And so the one this week is basically performance all-wheel drive cars from 2009. Like very
stapled.
sounds oddly specific, but okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 2009, so the first year of the R35 GTR.
Okay.
And then 997, and because he kind of gave the other two as like 09, I'm going to consider this 997.2.
Okay.
Carrera 4, not S, and Audi R8 V10 or V8 with the 6-speed.
Okay.
Track Daily Crush. I did go first last time, so I feel like you're about to burn a bridge here by the look on your face.
I was for a minute, but I actually decided that no. I would probably kind of stuck between two, but I think I've decided I would definitely daily the R8.
Explain.
To me, now it was all three of them are honestly not bad dailies. There's people that actually daily all three of those because they are just some of the best high-end sports cars that you could daily.
But they're both fantastic. All three of them are fantastic for very different reasons.
Yep, the GTR has doesn't really have. I mean, none of these have full access to 4 seats, really, even though the GTR does have 4, and so does the Carrera.
2 of them are 2+2s. The other one is just a 2-seater.
Yep. But the GTR does have a legitimate full-size usable trunk, whereas the other two
Oh, it's
don't.
super usable.
Yeah, the other two really don't. They do have good luggage space still, but not like an actual
It's
regular
not
car
the
trunk.
same. I mean, the 911, you can fold the seats back
Yep.
in the back, and it creates a shelf, and then you have your frunk.
Yep. And then obviously in the R8, you just have the frunk and a very small shelf behind
It's very
the
small.
seats. So, I mean, you would think that would be the case, but there's a lot of ways that's not as good as a daily.
Yeah.
Really, the one that to me is just the most killer as a daily is the R8 in the snow, mainly because it's the least complex out of the three. A lot of the running gear and stuff in that R8 is very related to more plebeian Audi models. And same with even a lot of the interior and most of the modules.
I thought it was closer to a Gallardo
in
in terms of drivetrain.
Transmission and axle, yes, but I'm talking engine, accessories, all most of the regularly serviceable items.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
Are
But the running gear after the engine.
running gear after the engine is shared with Gallardo.
Yeah.
As far as transmission, transaxle, and front axle. But engine, accessories, interior in many ways, and a lot of other things are very shared with S4, A4, and of that vintage.
Gotcha.
And tunable in the very
Because
same
the motor's
way.
an RS4 motor.
Yep, they're same motor with just very slight differences, mainly just some adapters and a few other things to make it work in there. But that being said, being the RS4 motor and not the notorious S4 motor, it is quite reliable.
It does have 2 ECUs.
It does have 2 ECUs. They don't generally have many problems, despite how scary that sounds.
Well, Eric Deitz he's known as Nardo R8 on Instagram. Shout out to Eric and his wife Tatiana. He has the highest miles R8 in the world. I believe he's past 150.
Nice.
He has shipped it around the world. He's driven it on the ring.
Nice.
The color is Nardo. It's the facelifted first gen.
Okay.
But it was the very last R8 to come with the 6-speed, actually. And his is a V8 6-speed.
Yep.
I think it's a 2011
Okay.
or something. I don't know. It's got the updated headlights and
Yeah.
taillights and shit.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, he's driven that thing fucking everywhere.
Yeah, and they even take very easy to boost of multiple variations.
Yeah, I would definitely supercharge one for sure. That'd be a lot of fun.
There was that one that we had at Wofford's that was the airplane one. That thing was mental.
It made like 600, didn't it?
800.
What?
It was up there. It was a little more up there.
Fuck.
It was closer to 700. I don't think they'd ever had it on a dyno officially.
Because there was a supercharged one. I thought it was a VF kit. IE made a video with it, and that was making 600 wheel.
Yeah, and I'm not sure because I don't think they had ever dynoed that kit, but that charger was huge.
Yeah.
Massive. Anyways, so to me that would just mainly for snow handling and daily drivability, I would prefer that. It was pretty much a tie between that and the Porsche. Because
Okay.
a Carrera, yeah, it's softer, it's not hardcore, it's not a GT3. You know, it's got the frunk, got the parcel shelf on the rear, etc., and it's not mad by any means.
Okay, so there is an update actually. As of June 13th, on the R8, on the Nardo R8, at 143,000 miles, 48 states, 22 countries, and 150 plus track days, cylinder 2 is leaking compression, is barely within spec.
Yeah, but that's 100. That's not.
That's like crazy
Hard
amount of
miles.
track days and miles and travel.
For what he's put that engine through, that's actually nothing short of astonishing.
It's amazing, yeah.
Because it's not like 148,000 miles in your Corolla.
And it's not like 140,000 freeway miles.
No, it is probably a solid 10 or 20 of that is very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, very hard. But anyways, then I was debating on which one to do next. I was like, okay, if I want to daily the R8 because I kind of just prefer that over dailying the Porsche. What do I do? Porsche or GTR for there? And I settled on tracking the Porsche and junking the GTR.
Thank you.
I was debating on what
You
to
decided
piss
to
you
save a
off.
friendship.
Yes, I did. The thing is okay, I should preface this with saying I've driven cars similar enough to that Porsche to make a judgment on it.
Okay.
Close enough to it to like understand what it would be. I haven't driven a GTR, but I've ridden in one.
Basically the same thing.
That's kind of where I was going with this.
Yeah.
A GTR, as cool as it is and was in 2009, it's just never been my cup of tea. I don't like the amount of electronics that are controlling shit.
Okay.
I don't. I've never liked the looks really. They're not horrible, but it's Nissan styling has not been good for me in the past 15 years. Just don't like their styling department. Some people love it. That's
Okay.
fine. And on top of that, it's kind of ends up feeling fairly disconnected even as a passenger. And to me, it's just like, okay. There's so much stuff that's switchgear that's like shared with a Sentra. Like it's different sharing a few switchgear things with like an Audi brand because your things are all moderately premium
Sure.
versus sharing, your $100,000 car with a $20,000 car.
Right.
Or actually, Sentra start at like 17, so that makes it even worse.
Well, yeah, and honestly, the most of the switchgear that actually was in the GTR was shared more with like $50,000 Infinities.
Yeah, there's only a couple things.
Not as much with like
There's only a couple
Sentras.
things that were shared with real low ones.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't feel.
And that's
quite right to me.
that's one of the reasons why I actually really appreciate Volkswagen and Audi just in general, because they have a very solid parts bin. Also Porsche.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they decided to take their interiors from the Panamera, their flagship sedan, well, their only sedan, but from a flagship model,
Yep.
and be like, okay, this goes in everything now.
Yeah.
This is now the Porsche interior.
Yep. Exactly.
So
That's mine, honestly, and I think the main reason why is this. Despite the fact that the Porsche is just a Carrera, I think it'd be just the most
Carrera 4.
Yeah, it's a Carrera 4. So I think it would just. Sorry. God damn you and your Porsche people. To me, it would just be a little more fun to track than an R8. Again,
Interesting. Okay.
It's just. I don't know. That's just where my mind initially went to. I couldn't necessarily do 100% explanation.
You're not
on
wrong. I mean, you are, but you're not wrong.
Oh, very funny. I already know pretty much what your answer is probably going to be, I think. Maybe. We'll see.
I think you probably could.
Yeah. But to me, that's just where I feel that it would be in my lineup more at home.
Okay.
Because I've always been an Audi guy, and I love my Audis on the streets.
Sure. So I'm going to daily the Porsche.
Oh, wow. I am
So original, Gavin.
blown away.
Because it's the best one. It's just the best daily driver.
Okay. And again, I'm actually not going to disagree with you because I was between them. So
Yeah. The trunk space is more usable than the R8.
And I'll give you that.
The all-wheel drive system is, albeit not quattro, is still very solid.
It is. Yep.
Also, rear engine slides in the snow would be so much fun. Are you kidding me, dude?
Oh, yeah.
That'd be great. And also just the 911 sound. I'm addicted to it. If there's an option for that, like, yes, the 4.2 sounds amazing, especially with uncorked exhaust.
Yes.
Sounds fantastic. But there's something about like my internal essence that just like
Screams flat six.
That craves the flat six, yeah. Because even 996 Carrera 2s with a slightly opened exhaust sound just the business to me.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Huh.
And then as much. Okay, so the GTR is. I still think it's a cool car.
Yeah.
And you would, with more ease, get faster lap times with the GTR than the other two.
100%.
By quite a margin.
Yeah, you would start at a very good baseline.
Oh, for sure. I would feel that driving the R8 with the gated 6-speed, mid-engine, on track.
Screaming 8,500 RPM V8.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for me, that's where that car lives more out of the, like, in this situation. That's where that car's like lives and should be. 911 on the street and crush the GTR. But what's funny is if you asked me the same question 10 years ago,
you would have said the opposite.
When these cars were brand new, I would have probably
crushed the R8.
I mean, I adored all three of these cars back then.
Mm-hmm.
But I did have the GTR as a poster on my bedroom wall.
Yeah.
When I was 16. So I probably would have said daily GTR, and it would have pained me to say this, but still probably track the R8
and crush the
crush the 911 because it wouldn't have been a turbo or a GT3, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But that's 16-year-old me, and I mean, but at that time I had driven 0 of these cars.
Yep.
And so 10 years later, I've driven all 3.
Yeah, and I've driven 2 out of the 3, and as I mentioned, just ridden in a GTR, gotten.
I actually haven't driven a 4.2 R8. But I have driven a Carrera 4 non-S 997.
Gotcha.
I drove it briefly. Like a buddy of mine. Shout out to Angelo Vargas.
Yeah.
He's a fellow watch and Rolex guy and Porsche guy. He had a 997 Carrera 4 that we just took some photos of and hung out up in
Nice.
Emigration. Yeah, super cool dude. And yeah, we need to hang out more often, actually. I'm actually 2020. I'm gonna start making my watch group more of a thing.
Gotcha.
And he's gonna help with that.
Nice.
And then yeah, and I've driven 4 GTRs now. I've driven Track Edition 2014. I've driven a 2014 Premium, I guess. Then that was a press car, and then I've driven Lynn Knight's GTR, which made like 500 wheel
Yeah.
on all seasons
Yeah.
in East Canyon. You were there for that.
Yes.
That was a good ass. Were you in the car when I was doing slides?
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I was trying to remember.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I actually overheaved the brakes on that,
Yep.
which was it took a lot
Yeah.
for sure, but that was a good day. And then there's another one. I did drive that 2010 on the same day, like the same shoot. We did the 2014 press car.
Okay.
Trying to think if I've ridden in Vinnie Meyer's car a number of times, but I haven't actually driven that. And that one makes 700 horsepower with the wheels. Yeah, it's fast. It's real fast. I don't know if you knew that, but that's fast.
I mean, GTRs are decently fast to begin with.
Yeah. But I don't know, the R35 is kind of in that similar camp of like how all STIs kind of drive the same.
All R35s.
Like R35s just kind of drive the same. They kind of just drive themselves, and it's like you're like, wow, that's a high number right there. That's real fast.
Wow, we did that. Okay.
Oh, okay, cool. Oh, we just went around that corner. Nice. Great.
It happened.
I do have to say though, the most amount of fun I had in the GTR was with all season tires on it.
When it actually had
character,
flaw, quote unquote.
It had a technical flaw.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I would recommend it to
But-
anyone else, but it was a fucking hoot.
But it made it so that it wasn't so predictable. When I say that, I'm not saying
The
that
grip wasn't as predictable.
that's what I'm meaning.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that the car was
But
upset.
the actual characteristics of the handling was still pretty predictable.
Exactly.
Still a rear drive bias, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I beat that horse pretty significantly.
You did. Yeah.
About these track daily crushes.
Yeah.
Let's save that other Fantasy Friday thing for next week
Cool.
because it's 9:00.
A little bit, yeah.
You need to get home.
Kind of.
Justin is a very tired Justin.
Very tired, sick. Already missed one day of work early this week that I wasn't, or yet this morning that I wasn't supposed to.
Right.
So, don't want that to happen again.
Yeah.
Kind of.
All right. Well, thank you, fools, for tuning in to the Expedition to Speed podcast. You can find us on the social medias, the book face, the blog spheres, the Instagrams, the YouTubes. And yeah, if you have a track daily crush, or if you'd like to just communicate and talk with us, slide in our DMs, or if email is kind of more your jam, mailbag.eos@gmail.com, and yeah, hit up Chaos Theory if you need a car detail, interior or exterior.
Hit up GP Media if you need photos.
Yeah, get your boys paid.
Yeah, we sadly we are not independently wealthy.
Looking for work.
Yep.
Looking for work.
Yes.
But anyways, until next time, and when I say next time, I mean next week, because I'm a fuck up and I kind of ruined this week. I kind of botched it up this week.
Yeah, it's all good.
You only get one this week, but since we've been doing 3 a week, you should have some content to go through if you haven't listened
We're
to
unapologetic.
Slightly, yes. But until next week, I've been Gavin.
And I've been Justin.
And this has been the Exhibition of Speed podcast fuck up. Goodbye.
Goodbye.